Behind closed doors, dark desires exposed. When the most elite of society's masks crumble, what lurid secrets lie beneath? The illustrious Harrington mansion, known for its grand soirees and dignified residence, conceals tales of passion so scorching they'd singe the pages. Embark on a journey that navigates the delicate line between unbridled desire and societal expectations. From the forbidden corridors of the servants' quarters to the opulent chambers of the masters, every shadow hides a scandal, every whisper a revelation. Behind closed doors, dark desires exposed unveils the decadent underbelly of a world where wealth and reputation mask a tapestry of treachery and temptation. The scandalous whispers of forbidden encounters echoed louder than the rain battering the mansion's windows. In a dimly lit room, Victoria hastily buttoned up her dress, her heart pounding as if it sought escape from the weight of her indiscretions. As the heiress of the Harrington estate, she was expected to embody grace and propriety, but beneath the poised exterior lay a labyrinth of desires, secrets, and untold stories. Chapter 1 peels back the curtain of the Harrington legacy, revealing the hidden passions that would ignite a firestorm of controversy. Every door in the grand mansion concealed tales of intrigue, and behind each one, Victoria played a part she never expected. Chapter 1 Serendipity in Bonn. She met a stranger in Bonn. What he did next will shock you. The rain was relentless in Bonn that evening. Claire, a vivacious young woman with raven black hair, stepped out of the train station, clutching her umbrella. But no umbrella could save her from the soaking she was about to receive. Just as she stepped out, a gust of wind flipped the umbrella inside out, leaving her drenched. "Of all the days," she muttered, looking up at the stormy sky as if demanding an explanation. But Bonn had its own plans for Claire that day. A deep laugh from a few steps away caught her attention. She turned to see a tall man, sandy hair slicked back from the rain, eyes sparkling with mischief. "I think the rain gods have something against you," he quipped, holding out his large, relatively dry umbrella. Claire, still recovering from the sudden downpour, managed a small smile. "Or perhaps they wanted us to meet," she replied playfully. The man, whose name she would soon learn was Alex, was a traveller. He had been moving from city to city, discovering tales and memories to add to his writer's diary. Bonn was his latest stop, and Claire, it seemed, was his newest muse. The duo decided to take shelter in a cosy cafe nearby. The place was a beautiful medley of old-world charm and modern comfort. Antique chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the walls were adorned with paintings of landscapes and portraits of historical figures. Claire, being a local, narrated stories of each painting, creating a world of yore for Alex. He hung on to every word, taking mental notes for his next big story. Every tale she told seemed to be accompanied by a personal anecdote. By the time their coffees were empty, Alex felt like he had known Claire for years. "You know, most people visit Bonn to see Beethoven's house or the university, but these stories, they're the real treasures," Alex admitted, utterly enchanted by her storytelling. Claire blushed. "Well, Bonn is more than just historical sites. It's the hidden stories, the whispered tales, the laughter echoing through alleyways, and the tears shed on cobblestone streets. It's alive, vibrant, and ever-changing." Alex's blue eyes stared deep into Claire's brown ones. There was a connection, a spark, a serendipitous meeting that neither had anticipated. The rain outside seemed to have cast a spell, drawing two souls together in a dance of destiny. Claire's phone buzzed, bringing her back to reality. "It's late and I have an early day tomorrow, but this was magical," she whispered, gathering her things. Before she could exit the cafe, Alex, driven by an impulse, handed her a small notebook. "For the stories yet to be told," he said, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Claire, surprised and touched, opened the first page. It read, "To the enchanting storyteller of Bonn. May our paths cross again. A." As she stepped out into the rain, umbrella now fixed, she looked back one last time. Alex was already lost in his writing, but the seat next to him held an umbrella, hers, with a note attached. What did the note say? Why did Alex leave it behind? The rain in Bonn had indeed played its part, but the story was far from over. She left her umbrella behind, but it's the secret note he left that changed everything. Claire clutched the notebook Alex had gifted her, but her mind raced about the forgotten umbrella. Was it just an innocent oversight or a ploy orchestrated by fate? The rain now drizzled softly, echoing her own tumultuous thoughts. And she opened the cafe door once more and cautiously approached the table where they had sat. The umbrella lay there, precisely where she'd left it, with a folded piece of paper tucked under its handle. Hesitating for a brief moment, she picked up the note. To the Enchantress of Bonn, it began, I believe this belongs to you, and while the rain might have been our matchmaker, I hope sunshine will play its part too. Tomorrow, noon, Königplatz Square. If destiny agrees, I'll see you there. Ah. Claire's heart raced. A secret rendezvous. It was something straight out of the novel she so ardently loved. But life wasn't a novel. Was she ready to dive into this whirlwind romance with a stranger? The stories she shared with Alex were a part of her, and he listened, truly listened, like no one ever had. There was an undeniable connection, a magnetic pull she couldn't resist. Night turned into dawn, and dawn into morning. The town of Bonn awoke to a brilliant sun, banishing the rain clouds of the previous day. Claire, dressed in a simple summer dress, made her way to Königplatz Square. The majestic statue of King Friedrich Wilhelm in the centre was a silent witness to countless stories, and today it might witness hers. Noon approached. Every tick of the clock felt like an eternity. She scanned the crowd, hoping to catch a glimpse of that familiar sandy hair, that mischievous sparkle. But as minutes turned into hours, hope waned. Perhaps it was all just a dream, a fleeting moment never meant to last. Just as she was about to leave, a soft strumming of a guitar filled the air. Turning around, she saw Alex, guitar in hand, serenading her with a tune that spoke of chance meetings and serendipitous rainstorms. People might say it's foolish to believe in fate's design, but in this vast world's grand play, I'm glad that your story intertwined with mine, he sang, voice filled with emotion. Claire, eyes glistening, walked towards him. The crowd around them erupted into applause, but for them, the world had faded. It was just Alex, Claire, and their serendipitous tale in Bonn. As they left Königplatz Square hand in hand, the statue of King Friedrich Wilhelm seemed to nod in approval. In a world filled with chaos and unpredictability, sometimes all you need is a rainy day, a forgotten umbrella, and a stranger's song to remind you of the magic that exists. This is Chapter 1 of a 6-part short story. Stay tuned for Chapter 2. As dawn's light filtered through the heavy drapes of the Harrington mansion, a pair of scandalously entwined silhouettes betrayed a secret rendezvous. Chapter 2 delves deeper into a world where temptation knows no bounds, where last night's fervent whispers become today's hushed rumours. As the household stirs, two individuals, bound by a night of forbidden passion, must navigate the treacherous waters of societal judgment and the ever-watchful eyes of those around them. Every stolen glance and veiled innuendo brings them closer to exposure. Amid the opulence and luxury, an illicit flame threatens to consume all in its path. Chapter 2. A fleeting connection. You won't believe who texted me after 10 years. Jasmine had always been a beacon of positivity and light even in the darkest of times. Her infectious laughter was the antidote to gloom for everyone who knew her. However, even the sunniest of personalities can have clouds lurking on their horizon. After a long day working at the bustling cafe in the heart of New York City, she would retreat to her cozy apartment, seeking solitude in the comforting embrace of her pet cat, Whiskers. One particular evening, as she settled on her couch with a cup of chamomile tea, her phone buzzed to life, illuminating the dim room. The notification read, "One new message from Rick." Rick. The name was all too familiar. He was her first love, the high school quarterback who had swept her off her feet. But he had also been her first heartbreak when he suddenly moved to Europe with his family, leaving nothing but a short note and a bouquet of wilting roses. Jasmine's heart raced as memories flooded back. She opened the message with bated breath. "Hey Jazz, it's been a while. Remember our favourite spot by the river? Meet me there tomorrow at sunset." Her mind raced. Why now? What did he want after all these years? The curiosity was unbearable. Against her better judgment and the advice of her best friend, Sarah, who had consoled her through the heartbreak years ago, Jasmine decided she would go. The next day was a whirlwind. She could barely focus at work. Every coffee she brewed, every croissant she served, she did with a far-off look in her eyes, her thoughts consumed by the impending reunion. As the sun began its descent, painting the New York skyline in hues of gold and crimson, Jasmine found herself at their old spot by the river. The once familiar territory now felt alien. The bench they used to sit on, sharing dreams and ice creams, was still there. It held the memories of their youth, of promises whispered and secrets shared. Taking a deep breath, she sat down, waiting for the ghost from her past. Each passing moment felt like an eternity. And then, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the ground, she heard a familiar voice. "Took you long enough." She turned around, and there he was. Rick, looking just as she remembered, only more mature and rugged. The air was thick with tension, punctuated by the soft lapping of river water against the shore. Before she could speak, Rick began. "Jasmine, I know this is sudden and probably unfair, but I had to see you." The words hung in the air as old wounds resurfaced, mingling with the scent of the evening air and the distant sounds of the city. He had a secret he'd kept for a decade, and it was about to change everything. Rick's piercing blue eyes met Jasmine's, looking for traces of the past, hints of recognition, and perhaps forgiveness. She stiffened, her defenses rising instantly. What could he possibly say after all these years that would change anything? He took a deep breath. "Jasmine, when I left, it wasn't entirely by choice." She frowned, her confusion evident. "What do you mean?" "The night before I left for Europe, I found out something that turned my world upside down. My father was involved in some shady dealings, and our sudden move was to escape the backlash. He feared for our family's safety and wanted to protect me." Rick paused, taking a moment to gauge her reaction. Jasmine's anger gave way to shock. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to, desperately, but it was too dangerous. My father made it clear that I couldn't tell anyone, not even you." Rick's voice quivered with emotion. "Every day I thought of you, regretting not having said a proper goodbye. You deserved better." The weight of his revelation hung heavily between them. The city lights twinkled in the distance, casting a soft glow on the scene. Jasmine looked away, tears brimming in her eyes. "I waited for you, Rick. For months. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was you." Rick moved closer, taking her hand gently. "I'm so sorry, Jas. If there was any other way, I would have taken it." A long pause ensued, as they both grappled with a decade of suppressed emotions, trying to find the words to bridge the chasm that had grown between them. Suddenly, Jasmine's phone buzzed, breaking the silence. The screen lit up with Sarah's name, no doubt checking in on her. But Jasmine ignored the call, her attention firmly on Rick. "So why now?" she finally asked, her voice betraying a hint of vulnerability. Rick hesitated for a moment, then pulled out an old photo from his wallet. It was a picture of them, taken on their last summer together, looking carefree and deeply in love. "This," he whispered, "reminded me every day of what I lost. I'm not expecting you to forgive me instantly or even understand fully, but I'm here now, hoping for a second chance." Jasmine gazed at the photo, then back at Rick, her emotions a turbulent mix of anger, pain, and a flicker of hope. The city around them continued its restless hum, but in that moment, time stood still for two souls reuniting under a canopy of stars. This is Chapter 2 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for Chapter 3. In the dimly lit corners of the lavish ballroom, Lady Isabel's scarlet lips whispered secrets that could ruin empires. Chapter 3 thrusts you into the heart of a masquerade where masks hide more than just faces, and the line between ally and adversary blurs. As the orchestra's seductive melodies fill the air, a dance of deceit begins. Behind every fan and feathered headdress, hidden agendas and dangerous liaisons await. Tonight, amidst the swirling gowns and sparkling jewels, a revelation will shake the foundations of high society to its very core. Chapter 3 The Long-Distance Labyrinth. Hidden in an old box, a letter from the past threatened to shatter the present. Jasmine had always been fond of Sundays, a day of relaxation and self-care. But this particular Sunday was different. She decided to declutter her apartment, a therapeutic activity to match the whirlwind of emotions from her recent encounters with Rick. Amidst a pile of old papers and magazines, a sealed envelope caught her attention. The handwriting was familiar, yet seemed like a distant memory. The return address revealed it was from Rick, dated 10 years ago. Heart racing, Jasmine carefully opened the envelope. Inside, a neatly folded letter and a pressed rose petal fell onto her lap. She began to read. Dear Jasmine, by the time you read this, I'll be thousands of miles away. It breaks my heart to leave without saying goodbye. But I want you to know that I never stopped loving you, not for a single moment. I hope one day we can reunite and pick up where we left off. Until then, this rose petal is a symbol of our undying love, plucked from the rose you gave me on our last date. Forever yours, Rick. Jasmine's hands trembled as she read the letter, tears streaming down her face. The pain of their separation, which had faded over the years, now resurfaced with a vengeance. She had so many questions. Why hadn't she found this letter earlier? Would things have been different if she had? The weight of the what-ifs was overwhelming. Suddenly, the phone rang, jolting her back to the present. It was Sarah. Hey, Jazz, I was just thinking about you. How are you holding up? Jasmine tried to muster a response, but her voice was choked with emotion. Sarah, I found a letter from Rick. There was a pause on the other end. Oh, Jas, do you want to talk about it? Jasmine sighed. I don't even know where to begin. Sarah's voice was gentle and reassuring. It's okay. Take your time. I'm here for you. Jasmine leaned back on her couch, clutching the letter close to her chest. The revelations from Rick, and now this letter, were turning her world upside down. But deep down, she knew she needed answers. And there was only one person who could provide them. It was time to confront her past, face to face with Rick. A secret cafe rendezvous, 2 cups of coffee, and memories that refused to fade. Rick sat nervously in a dimly lit corner of Café Lumière, their favorite spot from a decade ago. He had suggested the venue, hoping the familiar surroundings would make their reunion less awkward. He remembered how they'd spend hours talking, laughing and dreaming about their future together. As he sipped his black coffee, he noticed the exact table where Jasmine had playfully sketched their initials inside a heart on a napkin, sealing it with a kiss. He wondered if she still had that napkin. His thoughts were interrupted when Jasmine walked in. Time seemed to stand still. She looked just as breathtaking as he remembered, though there was an unmistakable look of determination in her eyes. Rick, she greeted, taking the seat opposite him. Jasmine, he responded, his voice slightly shaky. It's been a while. She wasted no time. I read your letter, Rick. Why didn't you ever tell me? Why did you leave? Rick hesitated. It was complicated, Jasmine. My family, the business, the pressure. I felt trapped, and I thought leaving was the only option. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. But why not tell me? We could have faced it together. Rick lowered his head, guilt evident on his face. I know, and it's my biggest regret. The cafe was silent, save for the soft hum of conversations around them. Their coffee grew cold as they reminisced about the past, sharing memories and confronting painful truths. Do you still love me? Jasmine's question caught Rick off guard. He looked into her eyes, searching for answers. Every single day, he replied. Jasmine took a deep breath. I need time, Rick. Time to process everything. Rick nodded. I understand. I'll wait, no matter how long it takes. As they walked out of the cafe, they felt the weight of a decade's worth of emotions, but for the first time in years, there was hope. Hope for reconciliation, hope for love, and hope for a future together. This is Chapter 3 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for Chapter 4. As dawn broke, the city's underbelly unveiled a scene of forbidden passion, forever changing the fates of those ensnared in its web. Chapter 4 delves into a clandestine world, where shadows cast by the rising sun conceal lovers' trysts and bitter betrayals. In the narrow alleyways and hidden chambers of the metropolis, reputations are made, secrets are sold, and desire becomes a dangerous game. Every whispered word carries a price, and in this world, trust is the most valuable and elusive commodity. Chapter 4. An Unconventional Union. In a world where truth is a rarity, betrayal was the name of the game. The streets of New York were bustling as always, but for Diane it felt like a maze she couldn't escape from. With every step, she felt the weight of the secrets she carried. The envelope in her purse was the key to it all, a collection of letters that unveiled the deception that had played out over the years. As she walked towards Central Park, she couldn't help but recall the first time she met Anthony. He was suave, charming, and had a way with words that would make any woman's heart flutter. They had a whirlwind romance, and in a few short months they were living together. But recently, things had taken a dark turn. Anonymous packages started arriving at their apartment. Inside were letters, photos, and even video clips that painted Anthony in a light she never imagined. The man she loved was linked to some of the city's most notorious criminals. Today, she had decided to confront him. As she waited on their favorite bench, she went over the evidence in her mind, preparing herself for the confrontation. Anthony approached, a bouquet of roses in hand. "Surprised to see you here," he said with his signature grin. Without a word, Diane handed him the envelope. As he went through its contents, the colour drained from his face. "Where did you get these?" he stammered. Diane's voice was cold and firm. "The real question is, who are you, Anthony? Did our entire relationship mean nothing?" Anthony sank onto the bench, the weight of his deceit evident. "Diane, it's not what it looks like." She scoffed. "Isn't it always?" Diane was now caught in a web of lies and deceit. Would she ever find her way out, or was she destined to be another pawn in Anthony's dangerous game? When the masks fall, the true face of darkness is revealed. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the cobblestone pathways of Central Park. The tension between Diane and Anthony was palpable, both seated on the bench, a chasm of unspoken words between them. Anthony's voice was almost a whisper, trembling with emotion. "There's more to this story than you know." Diane's heart raced. The revelations in the envelope had already turned her world upside down, and now she feared what more could be lurking beneath the surface. Clearing his throat, Anthony began. 8 years ago, before we met, I was deep in debt. The wrong kind of debt. He paused, taking a deep breath. To the wrong kind of people. Diane stared at him, her eyes widening in realization. The criminals, the underground dealings. It all started making sense. But the magnitude of betrayal felt like a dagger to her heart. Anthony continued, his voice laced with regret. "I began working for them, doing things I'm not proud of. I thought I could get out, but the deeper I went, the more entangled I became. Everything was under control until someone began sending those packages." Diane's anger melted into pity. She had been living with a ghost, someone haunted by his past and chained by his decisions. But the love she once felt now seemed tainted, built on a foundation of lies. "How can I ever trust you again?" she whispered. Anthony looked up, tears glistening in his eyes. "I don't expect you to. I just needed you to hear my side." As night enveloped the park, Diane was left with a decision. Would she stand by Anthony, helping him navigate the treacherous waters of his past, or would she leave, cutting ties with a love built on deception? The park was silent, but the echoes of their heartbeats told tales of love, betrayal, and hope. This is Chapter 4 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for Chapter 5. In a dimly lit boudoir, fragrant with the scent of roses and musk, a masked stranger's identity becomes the ultimate temptation. Chapter 5 pulls back the velvet curtains on a world where high society's rules blur, and every stolen glance holds a secret. Amidst the silks and satins, as candles flicker and music plays, dangerous liaisons intertwine with forbidden fantasies. The line between right and wrong has never been so seductively unclear, and every decision teeters on the brink of scandal. Chapter 5, A New Horizon. When shadows join forces, The night becomes pitch black. As the rain poured outside, creating a curtain of water against the dimly lit cafe windows, Evelyn sat huddled in a corner booth, her fingers wrapped tightly around a steaming cup of coffee. The cafe was a safe haven, away from the prying eyes of the city, but today it was the epicenter of a gathering storm. A silhouette appeared at the entrance, pausing momentarily before heading straight to Evelyn's table. It was Richard, a name known by few but feared by many in the city's underground world. His reputation as a cunning and ruthless schemer preceded him. "Evening, Evelyn," he greeted with a smirk. "Fancy meeting you here." Evelyn met his gaze steadily, not allowing her apprehension to show. "What do you want, Richard?" He leaned in, voice low and sinister. "I've heard about your little quest to uncover the truth. You're digging into places best left untouched." She clenched her teeth, trying to control her rising anger. "This is personal, Richard. Stay out of it." A wicked smile curled on his lips. "Everything in this city is connected, and trust me, you don't want to mess with the web I've spun." Evelyn's heart raced, but her resolve was unwavering. She had come too far to back down now. "I won't be intimidated by you or anyone else." Richard chuckled, amused by her audacity. Bold words, but remember, when you play with fire, you're bound to get burned. As he left, Evelyn felt a chilling sense of unease. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but she knew she had to continue. The truth was close, and she was determined to uncover it, no matter the cost. In the heart of darkness, even the bravest souls can lose their way. Evelyn's nights became restless, filled with paranoia and haunting dreams. Every shadow seemed to whisper threats, every gust of wind felt like an ominous warning. Richard's words weighed heavily on her mind. She wondered if she had bitten off more than she could chew. Late one evening, she found herself in the oldest part of the city, where ancient buildings lined the narrow streets, and secrets were buried deep. She had received an anonymous tip about a clandestine meeting taking place in an abandoned warehouse. Armed with nothing but her determination and a small flashlight, she ventured inside. The vast, echoing space of the warehouse was eerily silent. She treaded softly, every footstep sounding amplified in the stillness. As she delved deeper, faint voices reached her ears. She followed the sound until she stumbled upon a concealed room. Hidden behind a stack of old crates, she witnessed a gathering of figures, their faces obscured by the dim light. At the head of the table was a face she recognized, Mayor Thompson. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. What was he doing here? Their conversation was a web of conspiracies, detailing plans that could bring the city to its knees. Evelyn's hands trembled as she recorded every word, understanding the magnitude of what she was uncovering. Suddenly, a noise from the entrance caught her attention. Footsteps. Panic surged through her as she realized she wasn't alone. Darting behind a crate, she peeked out just in time to see Richard stepping into the room, his face illuminated by a sinister smile. "Seems we have an eavesdropper," he announced, eyes scanning the room. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. She knew she had to make her escape now or risk being caught in the dangerous game she had stumbled upon. The stakes had never been higher, and the night was far from over. This is chapter 5 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for chapter 6, the final chapter. Amid whispers and soft gasps in a clandestine rendezvous, a diary bound in scarlet leather emerges from the shadows. Chapter 6 delves deep into its pages, revealing confessions too sultry for daylight and tales that could topple empires. With every turned page, the allure of power and passion becomes impossible to resist, leading readers down a winding path where every secret unveiled is more intoxicating than the last. Desire and danger dance a perilous waltz, and by the chapter's end, nothing will ever be the same again. Chapter 6: The Test of Time. When trust is betrayed, shadows become your only allies. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the city with shades of twilight. But for Evelyn, there was no beauty in the setting sun, only an encroaching darkness, both literal and metaphorical. The weight of the secrets she had uncovered pressed on her like a vice, making every breath heavy. After her narrow escape from the warehouse, she found herself seeking refuge in the underbelly of the city. The dank alleyways and hidden corners that she once turned her nose up at now offered sanctuary. She was a marked woman, and trust had become a luxury she couldn't afford. Walking briskly, her steps echoed in the dim alley. Every so often, she would pause to glance over her shoulder, half expecting to see Richard's sinister silhouette tailing her. The revelations about Mayor Thompson's illicit dealings, combined with Richard's unexpected appearance at the clandestine gathering, left her rattled. As she navigated the labyrinth of narrow paths, a soft whistle cut through the cold night air. A cloaked figure emerged from the shadows, his features hidden beneath a deep hood. "Evelyn," the figure murmured, his voice raspy. She instinctively took a step back, her hand reaching into her pocket for the small knife she now carried. "Who are you?" "A friend," the figure replied, pulling back his hood to reveal a face she hadn't expected. Detective Adrian Miller, a reputed officer from the city's precinct. His usually neat appearance was now rugged and worn, indicating he had been in hiding. "You? Why?" Evelyn's surprise was evident. Adrian sighed. "I've been tracking the mayor's activities for months. I thought I was the only one onto him, but seeing you at the warehouse changed that." The realization dawned on Evelyn. "So we're on the same side?" "For now," Adrian replied, a glint of caution in his eyes. They quickly formed a reluctant alliance, united by a common goal. As they delved deeper into the city's dark underbelly, Evelyn discovered an underground network of informants and spies, all operating under Adrian's command. Their journey took them to the Silent Raven, a hidden speakeasy known only to a select few. The muted sounds of jazz filtered through as they entered, blending seamlessly with the soft hum of hushed conversations. It was here that Evelyn met Rosa, a sultry singer with a voice like honey and eyes that held 1,000 secrets. "Trust her," Adrian whispered, nodding towards Rosa. "She's one of us." As the night wore on, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The mayor's network was vast, but with Rosa's information, they began to see the full picture. However, Evelyn couldn't shake off the feeling that the biggest revelations were yet to come. The night was still young, and shadows were her only shield against the dangers that lurked around every corner. Every story has an ending, not all of them are happy. The muted ambience of the Silent Raven contrasted sharply with the chaotic whirlwind of thoughts swirling in Evelyn's mind. Rosa's revelations had been staggering. Mayor Thompson's connections ran deep, threading through every layer of the city, from the lofty penthouses to the grimy back alleys. Rosa, her eyes burning with a mix of fear and determination, handed Evelyn a small, tattered envelope. "This," she whispered, "is the key to bringing him down." Inside, a series of photographs depicted Mayor Thompson in compromising situations, sealing illicit deals and shaking hands with known criminals. The evidence was damning. However, Evelyn's heart sank as she also found a photograph of Richard, her once trusted confidant, standing right next to the mayor, a smirk playing on his lips. The betrayal cut deep, but there was no time for grief. With Adrian's guidance, they hatched a plan to expose the mayor. Using Rosa's contacts, they arranged for a clandestine meeting with the city's top journalists. But every step they took was fraught with danger. The mayor's spies were everywhere, shadows lurking in every corner. The night before the big reveal, Evelyn received an anonymous note. "Meet me at the old pier at midnight. Alone. R. Richard." The weight of their shared history, combined with the sting of his betrayal, compelled her to go. The old pier was desolate, the only sound being the gentle lapping of waves against the wooden posts. Richard emerged from the shadows, his face a canvas of regret. "Why?" Evelyn demanded. "For survival," he replied, his voice breaking. "The mayor had something on me, something from my past." As they spoke, Evelyn realized that Richard too was a victim, trapped in the mayor's web of deceit. He handed her another envelope, thicker this time. "This is everything. All his dealings, every dirty secret. It's your insurance." Their reunion was short-lived. The piercing sound of a gunshot echoed through the night, and Richard crumpled to the ground, a dark stain spreading across his shirt. "No!" Evelyn screamed, but her assailant had vanished. Tears streaming down her face, she took the envelope and fled. The evidence, combined with what Rosa had provided, was explosive. The next morning, the city woke up to screaming headlines exposing Mayor Thompson's corruption. The city was in an uproar. Protests erupted, demanding justice. The mayor was arrested, and his empire of deceit crumbled. As Evelyn stood amidst the crowd, she felt a bittersweet victory. The truth had prevailed, but at a heavy cost. Richard's sacrifice, the treachery, the relentless pursuit of truth, all culminated in this moment of reckoning. In the aftermath, Evelyn left the city, seeking solace away from the memories and shadows. But she left behind a legacy, a testament to the power of truth and the indomitable spirit of those who seek it. The end of her story was just the beginning for the city's renaissance. This is Chapter 6, the final chapter of a 6-part short story. If you have enjoyed this story and would like to hear other stories of love, romance, heartache, cheating and betrayal, why not subscribe to the Romance Diaries on YouTube? And if you hit the little notification bell at the same time, we can let you know every time we bring out a new story. If you would like to experience your own real-life romance, why not click on one of our sponsors in the description below?